We begin the hour with Roger Stone in court again. Stone's lawyers, a little under an hour ago, entering a plea of not guilty to 7 separate charges brought by the Russia special counsel: lying to Congress, obstruction of justice, and witness tampering. Today's hearing lasted a little less than 15 minutes. We'll see Stone in court again, though, on Friday, 1:30 p.m., in front of his trial judge, Judge Amy Berman Jackson. The normally talkative Stone, dressed in a blue suit, blue tie, and a blue pocket square, said nothing. Not on his way in or on his way out of court. CNN's Sarah Murray is outside the courthouse in Washington. Sarah, the government here proceeding with its case says it's a complex case. Take us inside the proceeding and what that means.
That's right. I mean, it means it could be a while until we get to trial, but as you pointed out, it won't be long before we see both sides in court again. This was just the magistrate judge who was here to do the arraignment. They were all in and out within about 15 minutes. Roger Stone's attorneys officially entered his not guilty plea, but both sides are due back in court on Friday afternoon. That's when we're going to get a better idea of what issues I think are going to be at play in this case as both sides prepare for trial. Now, we expected Roger Stone to come out and speak to the cameras after this appearance in court. He did not do so. He appeared to flash a Nixon victory V sign from some people who were able to snap photos on his way out, and then he took off. There were a number of protesters here chanting traitor, chanting lock him up, playing back in the USSR on a speaker. So it was certainly an interesting reception for him here at the courthouse. But as you point out, John, we don't know all that much about what this case is going to look like. There's still a possibility, too, that prosecutors could bring additional charges against Stone. So we'll see what's ahead in the coming weeks and months.
We'll see what's ahead. Maybe we learn a little bit more when we get that Friday hearing with the trial judge, Sarah Murray, outside the courthouse on this important day. Appreciate that. With me in studio to share their reporting and their insights, Jackie Kucinich with the Daily Beast, CNN's Jeff Zeleny, CNN's Evan Perez, and Sungmin Kim with the Washington Post. This is a perfunctory hearing. You come in, you say not guilty, and you're gone. Roger Stone, known as somebody who likes to talk. Do we read anything into that? Is that just his legal team saying not the day?
I think he's finally listening to his legal team. I texted one of the members of the legal team, and he said there was no need for him to come out to the cameras. But you know, one of the things that I think we're about to see is a change in the way Roger Stone is going to treat this. He's been we're used to seeing a little bit of the circus that follows him around. But these are serious charges. I mean, these are 7 counts. There's obstruction, there's witness tampering, false statements. And at some point, you know, I think his legal team believes that they got to treat this very seriously. This judge that he's going to see on Friday, Amy Berman Jackson, doesn't suffer fools. She will not put up with the circus. So I think they realize that they have to now, they have a fight up against them with the government here, because there's tons of evidence, as you saw in this indictment.
Important point, because he calls this a process crime. He says, well, maybe he said some things to Congress that weren't true, but he didn't mean it, or his recollection was bad. But the key point in the indictment, beyond lying to Congress, which Robert Mueller has made clear, you lie to him, or he catches you lying to Congress about his investigation, he is going to haul you into court, is that the indictment says that a senior campaign official was directed to contact Roger Stone to move forward. What else does WikiLeaks know? When is this going to happen? When is it coming out? That's the mystery here. The question is, when do we learn? Or how long does it take in court to learn who directed whom to contact Stone?
Well, we saw Sarah Huckabee Sanders dodge that question many, many times last week. And we've also seen the White House try to separate themselves from Roger Stone, as happens with officials that are indicted who are connected to this White House. It seems to be a pattern. You know, I think with Stone, they said, oh, well, he's been a consultant to lots of people. We know that Roger Stone has been with Donald Trump as his political advisor for many decades at this point.
At this point, I want to play here, and some of the characters involved here are characters. This is Jerome Corsi, who's one of the people Roger Stone was in touch with during the campaign. He concedes, trying to find out, you know, do you know somebody who has a relationship with Assange? How can we find out about this? What do they got? Does it help Mr. Trump? They say there was nothing nefarious about that, just trying to find out. But listen to Jerome Corsi. This is important, the timing of one of these conversations.
Do you have evidence or observation that suggests Roger Stone sought WikiLeaks help in timing the release of the emails around the Access Hollywood tape?
I can't prove that at all. I mean, I had one call from Roger, as I recall it. Roger disputes this on the day that WikiLeaks did begin in October, dropping the final emails on John Podesta, which Roger was essentially saying, we've got this timing issue because the Billy Bush tape is going to be released, and we'd like to have Assange begin releasing emails now.
Stone said that to you?
That's my recollection.
And did you tell the Mueller folks that?
Oh, yes.
This is part of what we need to see as these cases proceed. And we learned a little bit about the Manafort case or the Gates case as the trial proceedings before they began the pretrial stuff. Will we learn more about this in the sense that if you remember back in the campaign, the Access Hollywood tape comes out in which candidate Trump is bragging about things that if they happened would be felony sexual assault. It's bad for the Trump campaign, and within hours, the Podesta emails come out. Was there a deal?
The conversation.
Right. Was there coordination, or was Roger Stone, as he says, simply a blowhard predicting things and he really didn't know?
What's interesting is that in the indictment that was unsealed on Friday, there's no mention of this, and we do know, certainly from talking to Roger Stone's legal team, it appears from some parts of the indictment that they believe Jerome Corsi's version of events, not Roger Stone's version. But this is not in there, so I don't know whether this is something we're going to see later on, perhaps a superseding indictment. We know that there's still some parts of this investigation that are ongoing, or whether this is something that if this case goes to trial and Roger doesn't cut a deal, whether this is something that they will present before the court. Again, you're right, it's a very big question, an important question that has not been surfaced.
Right, and to that point, Sarah Murray reporting last night that this defense attorney for a gentleman named Andrew Miller, who's a friend of Roger Stone, says he's fighting a subpoena that they still want him to go before the grand jury. So that tells you they're not done with some of these questions here. The other question is how long? And listen here, this is the acting Attorney General, Matthew Whitaker. The president's choice to be Attorney General, Bill Barr, a permanent Attorney General, will get a key vote next week. But Matthew Whitaker is still the acting Attorney General. Listen to him yesterday. He's at an unrelated briefing, and he's asked a question about what does he know about Robert Mueller and the timetable.
The investigation is, I think, close to being completed, and I hope that we can get the report from Director Mueller as soon as possible.
Now, some Democrats went a little crazy after that, saying, why is he talking about that? It's not protocol. Let the special counsel say when the special counsel is done. I'm going to say again, I think some of that's, I get their suspicion because of everything President Trump has done. There's nothing in the public record that Matthew Whitaker has gotten in Robert Mueller's way. He was answering a question. He says, I'm fully briefed. I think he's going to be done soon. Why was that so controversial?
I thought the question was, if he's fully briefed, has he fully briefed the president? He's so loyal to President Trump in every way. Some would call him a lackey, some would call him loyal. Pick your word here. But has he briefed the president on what he was briefed in the report, or was he just answering a question and got a little bit ahead of his skis there? Yeah. I think either is possible.
Yeah, and I think, he did say the words, I think. I think he was kind of catching that a little bit. But those comments also put some attention on the fact about what happens to that report once Mueller completes it. And that's where Bill Barr's comments at his confirmation hearing a few weeks ago really comes into focus when he seemed to signal that maybe not all of it would become public. I think the movement on Capitol Hill to make that report as transparent as possible is really interesting with the new legislation from the former Judiciary Chairman Chuck Grassley, a Republican, Richard Blumenthal, Democrat from Connecticut. And Republicans I've talked to over the last several months over the course of the Mueller investigation do expect transparency in this. If it exonerates the president, then that's great. And that should be shown to the public. And I think if this report is obscured dramatically, you will hear from both Democrats and Republicans.
And I think that's been an interesting dynamic. The Republican part seems to be growing. The Republican part
John, one of the funniest parts of that video is you can see Chris Wray, the FBI director, standing behind him, and his eyebrow sort of goes up. And you can see, somebody's like, is there a trapdoor here we could push this guy down? Because, nobody wanted for Matt Whitaker to be the person to be saying this from a podium at the Justice Department. And certainly nobody at the Justice Department wanted that to be the case.
And to your point of what are his conversations with the president about this, he's going to be hauled up before Democrats, I believe, in the next week or two. They want him to testify on the House side up on Capitol Hill, so we'll see how that one plays out.